Hi, friends. Hi, Austin. How are you doing?
Cheers, cheers, everybody. How are you?
Cheers.
I feel like I should talk sort of quietly.
He brought his coffee.
I brought my coffee.
Guys,
Does everybody
hi.
have coffee out there? Some people have, yeah, a little bit. Good. Oh, very nice.
Everyone's feeling good.
Austin
You
is a
have your
great coffee town.
It's a big coffee town.
I've discovered.
More than we thought.
Yeah.
We tried
and-
them all.
Yeah, and they're really serious about it. Not unlike another town where I'm actually the mayor. You may have heard of it.
It's a place called Los Angeles.
Don't want to be the mayor of Los Angeles. No.
Guys, I'm Ann Walls-Gordon. I am the Chief Creative Officer at Full Picture, a lovely company based in LA and New York. Thank you.
Hey, great company.
More importantly, for today, I am Kyle's, let's call it partner in crime. I don't think any police activity will be involved, but
None.
I am a producer on a podcast you might have heard of called Varnamtown, which is one of the things we're going to be talking about today. And we really appreciate you coming out today for this talk. I think that the way to introduce Kyle, I know none of you have heard of him before. He's beloved by millions of fans for his iconic roles in TV shows like Twin Peaks, Desperate Housewives, Sex and the City, and Amazon's upcoming adaptation of Fallout coming out April
11th. They were going to originally drop on the 12th, but this is a whole thing they do. And then they said,
getting the
oh, no,
scoop.
we're going to put it on the 11th.
And he's known on the big screen for Blue Velvet, Dune, and of course the Flintstones. He has
My
an
favorite.
upcoming role in Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut, Blink Twice. I did it. Did
Very
you do
good.
it?
No, you did. Yeah, I saw it.
He's also a vintner, a runway model, a viral sensation, and now he's a podcast host. So happy to be here today with the one, the only, Kyle
Boom.
MacLachlan.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Kyle and I have been working together since 2006 when we made a series of very important videos about dogs called Mookie and Sam
Yes,
for
we
YouTube.
did. You can find them on YouTube.
They are deranged, which is totally fine. So I think the first question today, it's probably one you've gotten a few times before, but
Yes.
let's just start with, it's relevant. What the hell are you doing here?
Oh my gosh, what the hell am I doing here? Well, I already alluded to it earlier. When I was working on Portlandia, Fred Armisen decided I should also be the mayor of Austin. So we dressed myself up in a mustache and cowboy gear, and there I was. So I feel like I'm come home, actually. Actually, I love Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So the chance to come here was great. South by Southwest is an extraordinary festival, shining the spotlight on so many wonderful things. And I felt like Austin's weird. I'm weird. And this is really where I belong.
It's a match.
Yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Would you say you're kind of drawn to stories with weird locations?
I seem to be. If you think about certainly some of the films I've done, we could start with Dune, because, there's some strange characters in Dune, for God's sake. Blue Velvet, that's another. Lumberton. In fact, the podcast that you mentioned, Varnamtown, it's a real place in North Carolina. It's about 60 miles south of Wilmington. And the story that we tell in the podcast took place right about the time that we were filming Blue Velvet, about an hour away. Varnamtown is about a small town on coastal North Carolina that was a drug smuggling hub, import hub, for contraband coming up from South America, particularly from Pablo Escobar's cartel. At one point in time, it was the largest shipping port for marijuana, cocaine, quaaludes on the eastern seaboard. So everyone thinks Miami was the center, and Miami was the center for a long time. But as soon as things got too hot there, too dangerous, too many, well, if anybody watched Griselda, lots of killings. They found another area. It was sleepy little backwater, this little community of about 300 on coastal North Carolina, a shrimping village set on some of those inland waterways that are so difficult to transverse. That's why it makes sense that it was there. And we decided to tell the story about this little community. When I say we, I mean my partner in crime, a guy named Josh Davis, who is an actual investigative reporter. So we went on this journey together. He was kind of the leader of the thing. he knows how to interview people and get them to tell their stories. And we spoke with all the people involved, and that's Varnamtown. And that episode, the final episode out of 8, drops today.
Today, the
Yeah.
final episode of Varnamtown comes out.
It's really it's a very great story and really suits itself to podcasts because you get to hear rural North Carolina voices, and they are spectacular, and they just are wonderful to listen to.
Give us a demo.
I couldn't even do justice, but just to say there's a lot of diphthongs involved, like money, and it's very slow. It's worth a listen if you haven't checked it out.
Well,
already.
let's talk about how this podcast came to be. I know because I did it with you, but for those who don't know,
Yeah.
how did you first hear about Varnamtown?
So I think I attract weird stories.
No comment.
Weirdness. I don't know. I was, so my wife heard the story from a partner, investment partner, because he had done a contract deal, for a woman who was an organic soap tycoon
Obviously.
in Pennsylvania. She sold her company. My wife's partner did the contract. She moved to Varnamtown. So he told Near, that's his name, about this person that she'd met there named Dale Varnum, who lived in Varnamtown, and that he had done a deal with Pablo Escobar to smuggle in all of these drugs. And he said, I think this is an interesting, and I said, I agree with you, let's find out more. So we talked to the woman named Lynn Betts. Now, Lynn has written a book about this. My Right Hand to Goodness. This is all about Dale Varnum and his...
This is like the after show of the podcast. This gives you the full story beyond what we talk about in the podcast.
So Lynn is a character, as you can imagine, but she spent a lot of time with Dale, and she told this story, and she was basically our way in. And we were able to interview people who were doing the smuggling, the law enforcement that was also involved in this and paid off, the local law enforcement, the DEA that came in was not paid off. But we got to interview all the people that were involved in this. So it was, it's a great story.
So talk to me about this. This is what basically you heard is there's a shrimping town in the 1980s that did a drug deal en masse with Pablo Escobar. And you hear this and you're like, huh? And then you went to Fort Apache. Can you talk to us about what Fort Apache is?
So the Varnums have lived in this community for generations. Everybody's poor. Dale's father owned a gas station, kind of mechanical repair shop, just outside of town, that he turned into kind of his own town. So he's basically built a replica town inside this location that Josh and I were able to visit. It's like walking on a studio lot. It's that sophisticated.
Except for the toilets.
And he's decided this one stretch of the highway has a huge a bend in it, and he's put about 50 toilets kind of as spacers. Maybe they're for you so you don't park there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a subtle reminder. And he
Yeah.
also has an attack turkey that lives out front. So if you're coming to visit him, he will know.
You get the sense this is a fairly eccentric story, and it is, but it's true, which makes it even better. And
Dale basically is the kingpin of this town, and his stories are the best kind of stories because you don't quite know if they're true or not.
Yeah.
But you had to go into this town and meet everyone and kind of gain their trust.
Yeah, he's sort of a Pied Piper of the town, I think.
How
Anyway.
was it when you and Josh went?
Well, we went down, so Josh and I went down for about 6 days. We interviewed, as I mentioned before, everybody who was involved, including Dale. And we take you on an oral tour of his compound, which he calls Fort Apache. And it's something. It's pretty spectacular, I think. We're hoping that we're actually taking this idea and we're working on turning it into a series right now because the characters are so dynamic, so interesting, so curious. The story is real, and it's a pretty wide network, a web of people involved, many of whom we met, some of whom we met and we weren't able to include in the story, but would really make excellent characters. So we're working on trying to create this, which I think is, which brings us to the idea of a podcast as a way to develop other stories, series or even film. And I think not every story is maybe appropriate for that, but I do believe that this one in particular really lends itself to kind of a long format series because the people are so engaging and it went on for so many years and it's so unexpected.
And something that happened during this podcast, which I think was interesting, was you got to interview someone named Mike Grimes, who's a real detective. And what was how was that, being someone who's played detective for so long?
Good question. So Mike was part of the DEA contingent that came down to sort of find out what was going on here, because again, this is a little town of 300. Nobody knew what was happening. There were a couple of articles in the local paper, but they never got picked up. So no one knew what was happening. So anyway, the DEA comes down and Mike does his investigation. He realizes there's a huge amount of drugs being funneled through this area. He's an FBI DEA guy. And so we went to interview him, and he was like, I realized he asked me about this, and I said, I've never really spoken to anybody who's been in the FBI or as a DEA agent, even though I played one on television. I decided I would just use my own creative.
Yeah.
That was it. So, but it was wonderful to meet Mike and to hear his stories. And he's a no-nonsense guy that he figures pretty heavily in the story. So,
what was your favorite part of making this podcast and playing yourself instead of a character?
I do not like to play myself at all.
Why?
I much prefer characters. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know. It's too personal. I was not a very good interviewer. We weren't really interrogating the people.
A little bit.
Well, some of the techniques we used were somewhat suspect. No. We literally just really sat and spoke with these people and asked them questions. Josh did most of the questioning. This is what he does. This is why I thought I was so smart to involve Josh, because this is how he operates. He is really smart at this. So I really just followed his lead. I would ask questions like, how did it make you feel? It's more like...
Therapize them.
I would turn it into the actor. The actor would want to know, how did this affect your family? And this kind of thing. And Josh was more about, were you involved in this, and how much were you bringing in, and what kind of car did you drive, and blah, 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 blah.
And I think Varnamtown is a symbol or a metaphor for a ton of different towns. I think this is a small town. Like we said, in the late 80s, the shrimping had dried up, and they literally got this crazy influx of cash. And it's just, this could happen in any town, anywhere, almost at any time, to see what happens to human nature. How do people behave when everything gets flipped upside down?
I agree. I think that these are people they're not bad people. They're just, and someone actually says it in the show, we just didn't like being poor. I can understand that. I think we can all understand that. So they were just part of the chain that was funneling the drugs through this little community. They were, as I said, shrimpers. Yeah. So they had these fantastic boats that were almost made to transport marijuana. You had giant holds underneath in which they would offload from the motherships that would anchor offshore. And then they would bring this right into their little community, right to the dock, offload right onto trucks. And those trucks would then go out, throughout America.
We also had an airplane involved?
There was an airplane involved. So they were not only bringing it up by boat from South America, they were also flying it in from Barranquilla.
On what kind of plane?
There was a plane that they used. It was a Lockheed Lodestar. But the most significant thing about it was the plane used to belong to REO Speedwagon.
Why not?
Many of you are old enough in the audience to remember REO Speedwagon. There's a couple hands I see. Very good.
Great music.
And the reason we know that is because the decal, the emblem of the band, was still on the side of the plane, which I thought was actually a brilliant marketing tool.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to put Pablo Escobar's emblem up there. Of course,
it's more subtle.
Attract attention.
Yeah, it's nice.
And people were kind of excited. Hey, REO Speedwagon's coming to our town. We're going to play. This is going to be great.
But something happened to the plane.
The plane, yeah.
The plane went down.
Yeah, the plane did down. Well, and there's a whole other story there was a Chinese pilot who used to fly for mainland China, and he was also involved in it's the smuggling.
You got to listen.
It's a crazy
This
story.
is a tease.
But there was on one of the ships, when the plane came down, actually landed, but both the pilots had been fighting in the cockpit because the one pilot didn't believe the other pilot could actually land the plane. They did land the plane, but both pilots left the plane, engines running,
Full of
sitting
drugs.
like a dirt runway, full of drugs.
Yes.
That's one of the episodes.
And then the drugs magically disappeared. I don't know. It was crazy. So, talking about podcasts, some people say there's too many celebrities in podcasting.
I totally agree. We got to get rid of them. No more celebrities in podcasts.
With the success of Varnamtown, which absolutely shameless humble brag has charted at number 5 in top crime, top 25 cover
Yay,
of Apple.
you're doing really well.
This
Thanks.
was just kind of it was a whim. Like we were like, let's chase a story, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in continuing your podcast reign? Would you say?
Contain these podcasts.
Contain it, but also continuing.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love to be able to. We're looking. Josh and I are looking for other sort of stories that take place in small towns, kind of unusual stories. We're not really so much looking for like murder situations. It's just
Less
because
gross.
in our story there are really no murders. It's sort of everybody kind of got along, you know, and why not? Everyone's making money, but it was an unusual story because of that. But we're looking for stories like that, and I'm also interested in doing something myself. I really enjoy food, and wine is something that I'm a vintner. I make wine up in my home state of Washington. I have a brand called Pursued by Bear, which is a whole other story.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
We got time.
But anyway, and I thought it would be really fun to be able to talk a little bit about that, about my experience getting into kind of not a second career necessarily, but a small business. I'm not a business person at all, and I've had to learn along the way, but I've been doing this since 2005. And I thought, wouldn't that be a kind of a nice stepping off point to actually talk to other people that also have a passion or a hobby, or they've started a small business, or they have a small company or a large company, and just talk about how they got into it, how they feel about it, what they've learned along the way, lessons, why they were initially drawn to this. I was drawn to wine because I like wine. I've liked wine since I was in high school, way before I was supposed to like wine.
You heard it here.
But anyway, it lends itself, I think, to a nice sort of chat format. So we'll see.
You've got the podcast bug, you would say.
I do.
You've got a nice voice for podcasts.
I've got a face for radio.
So another place you've been, let's just say, blowing up a little bit is in social media.
I've had such a fun journey in social media, and I have to give some credit to Anne.
I set him up for this, and I gave him $5.
Yes, he said, you and your crew.
My crew. I have a great team.
Nora and Maya. Yeah. So the first thing I learned about doing social media is you have to have people that are much younger than you are to help, to tell you what to do and what not to do. I have a son who's 15, but he wants nothing to do with me and the whole social media thing. He has his own thing that he's doing.
He provides your wardrobe, though.
He does.
That's true.
He's pretty smart
Sometimes.
about that. Yeah. So, but anyway, I've been on this journey, and I love the creative side of it. I've loved actually even with Twitter back in the day, calling it Twitter, because you had to communicate something in a short amount of time, succinct, and hopefully it was multi-layered, and I love the challenge of that, sort of like writing a poem. Instagram is similar, but you're just doing it visually.
Yeah.
But you want to tell a story, and my social media is geared mostly towards humor. It's not a place where I pontificate and do all that. I don't think for me, it's not the right place to do that. But I do like to tell stories, and I do like to entertain, and I do like to occasionally make fun of, mostly myself.
What happened with Lord?
The Lord, that was crazy.
I mean, I know it happened.
Yeah,
Tell them.
Yeah, I was. So Lord dropped a new song, and she had a visual that went along with it. She did a couple pictures of herself, selfies, and it was actually your team actually said, "Was it up there?"
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, said we should replicate this, and I was kind of like, okay, if you think it's important, I'm a good listener, and I pay attention.
He's a good sport.
Yeah. So we
We're
did
like,
this.
just get on the ground.
Yeah, we did
and put
this, and
headphones
then it kind of blew up. Well, it really blew up actually. And then Lord commented, and in a really nice way, because I was not making fun at all. I was sort of.
It was an homage.
It was an homage, kind of an
Yeah.
honor. I think she's an extraordinary artist. It was kind of an honoring, and she took it that way. And I thought that's just a beautiful connection. So.
And now the whole internet's calling you baby girl.
Yes, this is something I had to learn. Does anyone
Which is
know
good,
this
I
term?
think. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, people know this term. Okay.
You'd agree.
I was
mean, Kyle
initially
is baby
sort of
girl.
offended, to be honest. I was like, I worked so hard to be strong, masculine.
Gender's over.
I don't play those characters at all. But anyway, but then I learned that it was actually a high compliment.
Yes. A+.
Yeah, it's it's not really like, but in the movie, in the book, and maybe it's in the movie Dune. People
Never
know
heard of
this.
it.
So Stilgar comes in, right? First time he comes into the palace, and as a way of showing his, I don't know, he honors the Atreides. He spits on the floor.
Ah, yes.
And people are like, what? High insult. But they're stopped. And they said, no. This is really a sincere gesture of goodwill.
Because every medium has a different language.
Exactly.
So you've burst into podcasting.
That's a great segue, don't you think?
Hey.
Anne, well done.
You
Well
burst
done.
into podcasts. You're killing it on social media. So we are sitting on the next stage. And this whole expo center is dedicated to what is coming next.
Yes.
So when we talk about storytelling and we talk about the future of storytelling, how do you think stories and futurism go together? What's your kind of take on that?
Wow. Okay. I'm going to get serious. The next thing I'm going to do is have a sip of coffee
Go ahead.
and make that very important. Well, I kind of spoke about it earlier because I think I found that podcasts are a really great way to, first of all, to tell a story. Doesn't really cost a whole lot. You do a lot of research, and in some ways, it's almost prep for doing like a series or a film. Not that podcasts aren't of themselves important, and you don't need to go even further. In fact, with Varnamtown, we wouldn't need to take it even further, but I think it lends itself to another interpretation of the story. And I think a lot of podcasts have that potential. Not all, but you can take this idea, because your imagination is running wild as you hear these stories, and you can begin to put it together in some other form.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that it's coming, and so yeah, I would say that would be.
And I think the medium of podcasts this is not the first time humans have told stories by listening. This is what?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Umpteenth iteration of it, just in a new way.
Well, a good story will last, right?
Right.
So you just need to have a really good storyteller. So one of the challenges, of course, with the podcast is you have the idea. You need the writer to come in and really put this into the form it's going. So we're now looking at turning this into a series, possible a television series, and we're going to find a writer. We need to find a writer that can understand, listen, and get it, and then create the characters. We have to recreate the characters.
Yep.
But we already have kind of the journey is there, and the form of the characters is already there. So it's a new way for me to work. Certainly, I've never really engaged in the producing side of things, so this is a step in that direction for me. And I always sort of shied away from it. I don't know why, because I'm having a lovely time and meeting some really, really creative people. So we'll see where it leads.
I think that you're leaning into, there's so many ways to tell a story. You've been involved in storytelling on screen since 1983? 1983.
Yes, 1983.
I was barely
Back
alive.
then, we had talkies, but just barely.
So how have you seen, let's talk about kind of the TV film side of this. How have you seen TV and film? What kind of jumps out at you as the biggest changes since the first day you stepped in front of a camera to stepping in front of a camera, say for Fallout?
Well, fundamentally, I
That was
got
for you, Laura.
Laura on that
That was
one.
for you.
She said, yeah, you have to say that at least once during this talk, so.
He aims to please. She's dying.
Big changes. What's been weird is I've felt there's been a shift. It's strange because when we did Dune, we shot on film, of course, which has a certain rhythm and then kind of a style to it and a vibe to it, and then everything went digital, and now we've come back to film. Not everyone's shooting on film.
Yep.
A lot of people are shooting on film. And I tell you, I really missed the experience of certain length of footage that you could use. The mags had a certain length that you could only shoot a certain amount of time. You'd have to change the mags. There was like a little bit of it's mostly a rhythm thing.
Like a
You're
ceremony
filming.
to it, yeah.
There is, which
So do you feel
I
like when
miss from digital. But
I was going to say, when people switched to digital, what was the first, do you remember the first movie you did that was not on film?
oh, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing that we did do.
What?
I worked with Steven Soderbergh. We shot High Flying Bird in New York on iPhone. I know that was a thing for a while, but he would he literally would set the camera up with a little tripod thing, and he'd turn it on, and he said, "Okay," and he'd walk away. And so we would do the scene, and it's a little tiny iPhone, and you're like,
Were you like cheating towards
"Who
the
are we
iPhone?
doing this for?" Yeah, it was just like, and in a way, it was very freeing because you're just basically doing a real scene with someone, you know. So that was an interesting segue.
Do you think that people are gonna stay part digital, part film?
I think so. There's so much you can do with digital, so much manipulation. But I really miss film. I miss the quality of what you see on the screen. I think it is different.
Yeah. How was the experience of shooting Fallout, which was super VFX?
Super
heavy?
high tech.
Was
yeah.
that like
So
the most VFX heavy thing you've done?
Maybe because Dune was all practical, so all those worms and blue screens and everything like that. For the most part, it was practical. Fallout we shot on a volume stage, which is basically screens that have been attached across an entire
Like this?
giant soundstage. Yeah, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to run those things, but it was spectacular because you didn't have to imagine anything as the actor. You were in the space and in the place. And I think when you see it, it's one of those sort of mind-blowing experiences because they're able to create vistas and locations that you never, ever you wouldn't be able to afford it now, especially not for a television program. So this is an 8-part series. I said they're going to drop them en masse on April 11th.
By the creators of Westworld. So you know there's going to be twists, turns, mayhem.
Yeah, and if there are any fans of the video game Fallout, which this is based on, I think you'll be pleased. I hope you'll be pleased.
What if you haven't played the video game?
What if you what?
What if you have not played the video game?
I think you're still going to enjoy the experience because this is not like anything you've ever seen, and also the tone of it is great because there's dark humor in this. It's serious, but there's also some dark humor that is gallows humor, I think they call it. So,
Tell us a little bit about your co-stars.
which I love.
You really love some of your co-stars.
Oh, Ella Fresnel.
Yeah.
It's great. So Ella is in Yellow Jackets. She plays my daughter. We look like, we could be father and daughter, and it's kind of amazing. She's lovely. Walton Goggins is also in it. He plays a character of the Ghoul. Walton is, he's a lot of fun. You might remember him from Justified. Leslie Uggams
Love that guy.
is in it. She's amazing. So it's a fun cast. So I hope you enjoy that. That'll be out here pretty soon. That's the next thing.
Let's talk
Yes.
about a little bit of, let's get esoteric. Let's talk about motivation and creativity, something you are known for,
Yes.
both being creatively motivated.
Well,
How do you stay motivated?
I work with David Lynch.
Yeah.
That's how I do that.
Yeah.
David is remarkable. We worked together my first 2 films were with David. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity. We didn't seek each other out. We sort of stumbled into each other when I met him for Dune in '83, and we've maintained a working relationship and a friendship all these years. I admire David so much because he is truly a creative being. So there's not a day that goes by that he doesn't make something, whether he's painting, doing his music, sculpting,
Giving the weather report.
giving the weather
In a creative
report.
way.
Yeah. He is constantly creating, making something interesting. And we are neighbors, which is even more strange. He literally lives not even a quarter of a mile away from me. So we visit frequently. And No plans yet for something else.
You're deeply connected.
You never know. We are.
Do you have a morning mantra?
Where's my coffee?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing I think. I get up and have always gotten up with a pretty positive, exciting attitude to greet the day.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what's gone on before, I think it's a new day and I'm ready to greet it. And I think one important thing is to actually have a view of the sun if you live in LA, which is not easy. Well, actually it is very easy. If you live in Portland, a little more challenging.
Yes.
But to have at least open the curtains and have a vista, look outside, see look long distances, and I think that's supposed to be very good for your brain. So I try and do that every morning.
And who do you look to, speaking of looking places, for staying in the loop about the ever-changing tech, social, everything?
Tech is still confusing to me.
Don't you have an in-house tech guru who's
Well, I
of
have
the teen variety?
Yes, I do. My wife is pretty good. My son is excellent. Why are they so good? It's
They
like,
just get it.
I don't understand.
built
He's
in.
15 and he really understands. But I know, to be honest, anything that we do and create, your crew has been so
Not about me.
instrumental.
About
I
me.
know, but truly creative being here to my left. A lot of those crazy videos, if you've watched any of the stuff on Instagram, they come out of her brain. So,
Ah.
yeah. And I encourage that. We are sort of on the same wavelength,
It's nice
which
that
is fun.
you put up with this.
I do enjoy it.
Have you? We're gonna get weird, guys. We're gonna do a little rapid fire. We're gonna do a little
Get weird.
crowdsourcing. We're gonna do a little Q&A in a second. So save your questions because I am very aware I have not talked about Twin Peaks enough, and I feel like you want me to talk about it. So that is coming for you. But real quick, have you gone up for a part that you have not gotten that later you were like, "Fuck, I wish I got that part"?
Well, I auditioned for a number of different things back in the day. One that would have been really fun, but I don't think I would have had a good time. I actually auditioned for a role of Goose in the first Top Gun
Heck yes.
with Tony Scott.
But Anthony Edwards had a robust career, so that's nice.
He did great.
You could have been on ER.
I could have been on
Years, for years.
I know. I could have done that. But I knew that I went into the audition initially that I was like, this is no way to happen, because Tony was sitting back in the chair. I think he had a denim shirt on, sort of like this, and cowboy boots. And he just looked at me and was like, it's just not going to work. So that was it. But it would have been fun to fly a plane.
That's a good one, though.
But you have to die in that. I don't know.
You would have had to die.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, we prefer you alive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's so good. Okay.
What are you watching right now that you love, and have you seen anything at the festival, this beautiful festival that you've loved?
We have been. The thing is, you get so involved in what you're doing, it's hard to like go out and experience other things. But I did see a great movie yesterday called Doing It. Yeah, Lily Singh is in it, and my good friend Sabrina. There she is.
That's her.
Sabrina is in it.
How do you
She's
know
great.
this
She
nice
plays.
lady?
What's that?
How do you know her?
So Sabrina and I worked together on Carol's second act with Patricia Heaton, and we were a little crew, a little team. We were for CBS, and we had a really fun time. It was challenging work. Half hour. You are really good at half hour. I'm like, I grew up doing theater, and I'm like, but half hour, it's like theater, but it's even more challenging. It's like you've got to be stand up, and you do stand up really, really well too. So you were perfect. Anyway, Sabrina is here, and and if you have a chance to see the movie Doing It, you.
It's a Lily
Definitely
Singh
should.
movie. It is
Yeah.
a coming-of-age comedy. It is so good. It is so funny, and Sabrina
Yeah.
literally steals the show. So
Yeah.
don't tell Lily we said
Sabrina's
that.
amazing.
Stop recording.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, listen. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of speed round. What we did
Yeah, I'm
is
ready.
we went to the internet, we went to the people, and we said, what questions do you have for Kyle? And y'all will have your chance to ask questions in about, call it, a few minutes, so get yours ready. But here's a few from the internet.
Okay.
At Bees on Moon, obviously, wants to know, what is your life philosophy, my dear man? They wrote my dear man.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What is your life philosophy?
Well, I like to lead with kindness. I think that's
Awesome.
important. I get that from my mom. And I also when I meet people, I really like to connect with them.
Yep.
And I also I try to imagine, if what it's like to walk a mile in that person's shoes, right? So they've come from a certain place, certain situations, have certain expectations, and I really want to try to tap into that. So
What if the shoes are bags?
still works.
He had a dream.
That was my dream last night.
Yeah,
I had shoes, but they were kind of like paper shoes, like the ones you get in the hospital sometimes, like the paper ones, but they were kind of full of leaves and twigs and stuff. And I was trying to empty out the shoes so I could wear them on my feet. I don't know.
He ate meat late at night.
I did.
Was a thing that happened.
Well, I am not. I am a, what do you call a meat eater? I guess.
A carnivore.
Carnivore. That's it. And I did go to my favorite barbecue spot yesterday.
You have to go to barbecue in Austin, right?
Style Switch. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Style Switch here. It's a great spot. Catherine Stiles. This is a person I met on the internet, over the internet.
Yeah.
I'd had their barbecue before at a friend's, and so I just started following, and I sort of posted something, and they posted back, and then we started to, DM, and it was like, and she is extraordinary.
We toured the pits.
Yeah.
My hair smells like barbecue.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
gross.
And you're vegetarian.
I'm vegetarian.
You're going to go home, people are going to wonder.
Pro tip about Style Switch is that if you're vegetarian, they still have food that's good for
They do.
people like me. But it's set where their location is where they filmed Dazed and Confused. And it's the first strip mall in Austin, but it's where they filmed the Emporium scenes at Dazed and Confused, which was amazing. And I made Kyle do Matthew McConaughey impersonations.
All right. Yeah, I can't do it justice, but, I tried.
Someone named Rach H. Druck wants to know, how often are you pursued by the bear? What does that even mean?
Every night, my dreams. So my wine company is called Pursued by Bear. I stole that, but I stole it from Shakespeare, so it's okay.
Seems
In
fine.
The Winter's Tale, one of his plays, Act 3, Scene 3, he wrote "Exit pursued by a bear," and the actor is a bear appears and chases the actor off stage.
You never see him again.
And you never see him again. Well, the people that come on stage, the group that comes on after him, comment about the condition that they found him in, which was not good. But half of him was left. But I love this stage direction, and so I decided to name my wine company Pursued by Bear. And we now have 6 wines, all made in Eastern Washington, very small production. And this is my second act.
That's
maybe?
right.
It's something
Much
that
like Carol, you too are having a second act.
I'm having a second act as well.
Nerd Loser, their name, not mine. Nerd Loser 222 wants to know, have you made the Letterboxd account yet? The people want to know.
No, I know I need to do this. I need to make Letterboxd. I'm afraid that my film choices, everyone's going to be like, oh, well, now I don't like him anymore. But I will. I think I should do that because it's a rather eclectic. But the thing about my favorite movies is they always correspond with a point in my life, a time in my life, where these movies were really important to me.
That's great.
Some are good, some are not good, but they all mean something to me. So I like the fact that you can actually give a little description about.
Yeah, you get to explain.
Why this particular film. I think it's a good idea. So I'll have to do this. Thank you for that nodding encouragement. So we'll see.
Lily C. Powell wants to know, would you rather have carrots for arms or scissors for legs?
Carrots for arms or scissors for legs. I feel like if you had scissors for legs, you could still move and run.
If you had a rabbit, you would not want carrots for arms.
No, that'd be very bad.
That'd be bad.
So I'd have to. I guess I'd go with scissors.
You
Reminds
could
me
get
of
free
an
haircuts.
episode from Sex and the City is running with scissors. That was one of the episodes.
You were on Sex and the City?
Let me
Did not
look at
know
the
that.
pictures up there. Do I see? Oh, yes, there I see, right above my head. Frances
That one.
Sternhagen, me, Kristen
That one.
Davis, yeah.
That one.
The beloved Bunny, I loved her.
Demon Party, again, I did not approve or choose these
They're
names.
interesting
Says,
names.
what is advice you have for any aspiring icons out there?
Aspiring icons. Work with David Lynch. That
Fair.
would be the best advice I could give.
And then last but not least, Shauna S. wants to know, if you were a deli sandwich, what would you be?
Oh, I think I'd have to be pastrami. I don't know why.
You don't know rye. Thank you.
You see why I work with this woman?
That was off the
That's
cuff.
right there.
Okay, I think we should hear from the people. You are the people. What do they got to do, Laura? Get in the line? Get in the line, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
There-
Keep it classy, San Diego, though.
Absolutely.
Okay. I know
Hello.
we're in Austin. That was a joke.
Having worked with great directors like David Lynch and Steven Soderbergh, have you ever considered directing a film?
That's a good question.
I did direct one thing, which was Tales from the Crypt, way, 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 way back in the old days. And I really enjoyed it, but it became really clear to me that I was not a very good director. I second-guess myself so much of the time that I don't know if I would ever be able to make a decision. And the whole point of being a director is to make decisions. And you have to say, this is what it's going to be, even if you don't even know the answer, but you have to do that.
Faking it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
I think this producing thing is pretty exciting, may lead to that, but I don't know. I'm still up in the air about it. So probably not for a while.
Just bombard him on social that you think he should, and then he'll do it. Thank you for your question. Oh, you guys say your names, too, so we know.
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Zach Landis.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Hello.
My name is David DeRoche from Boston.
Hey, David.
Hello.
Hello, David.
I want to thank you. Twin Peaks: Return was absolutely the weirdest thing that my family and I have ever seen.
Perfect.
Thank you. We got you.
I have a million questions, but just to be concise,
Yeah.
did it end up where you felt it would or wanted it to be in the end? It was quite a ride.
Thank you. It ended up where David wanted it, of course. And I sort of liked it too, because it was sort of left to the viewer to interpret. I mean, this is the big thing about David. It's, he will not talk about his films or explain his films. It's really about the experience going through, and you make up your own mind. That particular scene, the ending scene, we shot very early in production. So we were in Seattle for the first part of the filming, and then in LA and the area down in Los Angeles for the remainder. We did, he basically told me exactly how he wanted me to move and respond. He said, you take a few steps forward, you lean forward, you turn, and then you say, what year is this? And then Cheryl's gonna scream. And that was it. So I said, okay, because I didn't know anything before that. I didn't know kind of where we were coming from, even though I'd read the script, it was like, I don't know what David had in mind, but I trusted it, of course, and just did what he wanted. I always felt like it was a situation where he had gotten to a certain point, Cooper had gotten to a certain point, but had just slightly missed where he was supposed to be. So there was still a bit of a limbo state, and so he's still in this place. So I always think it's neither here nor there. It would be wonderful to go revisit, but even if we revisited and went on with the story with David, and I'm not saying that would ever happen, but I'm sure that there would never really be an ending that would be, okay, now I understand. I think it's all about the question.
Style.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
What's your
Sorry,
name?
I'm a little short here. My name's Mallory.
Hi, Mallory.
Hi, Mallory.
So I don't really have a question, but I wanted to thank you because Dune was one of the very, very first sci-fi movies I ever watched when I was little, and it actually made my dad's and my relationship like absolute cement. So I just wanted to thank you for that. My mom is not going to thank you for that because she's not a sci-fi person. But
That's okay.
I just wanted to say thank you because that made me love sci-fi and it made my relationship with my dad that much closer.
I'm so happy to hear that. Was he the one that exposed you to it, or did you?
He
Yeah,
was.
yeah. So he was a sci-fi fan.
He's a big nerd. My mom doesn't love it. But I do because that gives him and I something that my mom and I don't have. So
I'm so happy to hear that.
yeah,
That's
it's
great.
Little routine that we've got. We would sit down on the couch. Nobody's allowed to eat on the couch, and we'd have mint chocolate chip ice cream when Mom was at work, watch Dune, and then go to bed. So
I love it. What a perfect way to end the evening.
yeah. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thanks, Mallory. I really appreciate
Mallory.
you sharing. That's fantastic.
Hello.
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 Just really briefly, I also want to say me and my dad really bonded over Twin Peaks.
Cool.
So, I'm Clay Traub. I'm from SoCo Student Media out of Colorado State University Pueblo. And I'm currently working on my senior project, which is a comedy show
Great.
calling Clay's Corner. So in your performances, you really channel that balance between comedy and the dramatic side.
Right.
I was wondering how your experience that and your advice on that, and also how to bring out the weirdness of where I'm from, Pueblo, Colorado.
Good for you. You got to tell the specific story of the place where you are and what you know. The comedy stuff is I mean, the stuff that I really loved when I was younger was a lot of the Monty Python stuff, which is a very non sequitur and unusual humor that really struck me as funny, because it was all played straight. And so anytime we do any comedy at all, my first thought is what's the real thing, what's truth, what's going on here, and then how can I comment on that but be like real. So the reality of it, the truth of it, is really, really important to me. And then, you just kind of give it a little tiny twist, and you never let the audience know. So no winking.
To editorialize too on you, I think that comedy either is from a dark place or a joyful place, and I think your comedy is joyful, and I think that's why it has heart. Because you actually are enjoying yourself, and there's a lightness to it.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because of all the other roles you play.
Yeah, they're dark
Opposite.
places, but I sort of maybe provide the light in those moments. That's funny. It's interesting you say that. I had never thought about that. So, I am a pretty positive person, and I love the comedy. What the idea is? Like, I love to be able to. It's like I'm sharing the comedy with the person. It's like we're in this sort of together, or I bring them into it and sort of say, "Isn't this a funny way to look at this?" We're not going to really talk about it, but I'm just, but you're involved with me somehow. So.
Thank you.
Good luck
Welcome.
with your project.
Thanks, Clay. Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Clay.
Thank you. We have 13 minutes.
Hi, my name's Nathan.
Hey, Nathan.
So your catalog is really expansive and really large, and something that's really kind of inspiring to me as someone who grew up acting.
Good.
But my main question for you today, just to pick from one role, is Orson Hodge. And so, when a character that you're playing like that kind of leaves and rejoins the show multiple times, and sometimes, a season or so down the line, are you aware of those kind of changes? Like, hey, we're going to bring you back later, or do they call you up and, you're like, do you feel an obligation to come back if that were to happen?
It's a good question, because when I started on Desperate Housewives, I was meant to just do one season.
Oh.
And a third of the way through, I went to Mark Cherry and I said, I know I'm slated to be the killer here at the end of this, but is there any way I could stay longer?
What if not?
Because I was having such a good time working with, I love everything about it, and Marcia Cross is amazing. I said, this is really fun. Plus, it's 10 minutes from my house, which is really nice. Anyway, you got to have the practical too, right? So anyway, I went to him and he said, let me think about it and talk to the writer's room, because they arc this stuff out at the very beginning of the season. And they were able to make the change and put everything onto my mother, which opened a whole nother can of worms. And I was able to stay on the show for a while. And then they throw stuff at you. The scary thing about working in network series is week to week, you don't really know what you're going to have to do. And sometimes it's really embarrassing, and you were like, okay, I'm going to have to do this now. And they were the ones who sort of put me in the wheelchair, and then I said, okay, we're going to move you out, and we're going to try another thing. And then they brought me back, and this time I sort of said, hey, maybe Orson has kind of gotten cool while he's been gone, So they brought him back, and he was a little sort of darker, more mysterious. I don't know if it worked or not, but it was fun to play. And that was in the last season. So, but I know there were no real plans. It just kind of happens, and then they sort of reach out and say, hey, we're thinking about maybe doing this. And you're like, okay, let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Grant Bonwar. I'm an indie film director, and my question for you is, if I were to pitch you a film in one line right now and you liked it, would you consider collaborating?
Let's hear it.
Okay.
It's your time to shine.
When deceased actress Alice Helm learns that she lives on as a character in others' memories and media, she decides to steal and edit them to write herself a new identity, prompting Theodore Keaton, the pragmatic detective, to investigate the realist case.
Wow. Detective. You had me a detective.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's good.
That's
Good luck.
good. Good luck with that.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Who knows? There's a funny thing. I'm going to do a part in an upcoming well, maybe it'll be a series. We'll
A
see.
pilot.
Yeah, it's a pilot. It's called The Sensitive Kind, and it's being directed by Sterling Honshu, who directed Reservation Dogs. And
Great
it's
show.
a great series.
Great director.
And great director. I met him at the Sundance Lab, the summer of 2000 something. And he came to me when we met because he said, "I want you to do this role." And I said, "Okay." He said, "You promise me when because I read his script and we would do night readings at Sundance. We do read scripts through, and I said, 'This is great.' And I said, 'Just whenever you go, just call me.' I said, 'We'll do something together.'" And I don't know, however many, 13 years later or 14 years later, he reached out, and he's obviously a successful filmmaker. So you never know.
All right. Well, remember the Bomar brothers. We'll
Okay.
Ooh.
be
Very
in touch
good.
in the future.
Very good. Good luck to you.
Good tagline. Remember the Bomar brothers.
Yes.
Hello, I like your earrings.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm Megan.
Hi, Megan.
I was just wondering about, like, when you were doing the podcast or when you were doing Twin Peaks, it doesn't really matter. If you have any good stories about music, Austin's a music town. I asked if there was any, like, music you listened to while making the podcast to get into the mood, or, yeah.
Well, we did, when I worked on Blue Velvet, David would play Shostakovich during some of the night filming because it gave the mood and outside. So he had these big speakers, and it was very mysterious and cool, and it really did put you in a place. I've used music for character work and stuff as well, just to sort of listen to something, get me in the right mood, or to write. So I write a little bit, and music is something, if you have the music that reminds you of kind of, I don't know, the era perhaps, or the character, or just the feel, so really important as well. So I use it. And when I work out, I listen to music too.
That was a good question.
So very good, important, good question. Hey.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Areli, and
Areli.
I'm a volunteer at South by. I
Oh,
was
great.
scared that I wasn't going to be able to make it, but happy to be here.
Great.
So Blue Velvet is one of my favorite movies. It was really my introduction to David Lynch's work.
Good introduction, yeah.
And I was just wondering, do you remember your first day on set working with David Lynch and, of course, Isabella Rossellini?
Yes.
What that experience was like?
Yes. Well, the first thing we did was Dune, so that was my first time with him. But on Blue Velvet, the first day that we did filming was we did an exterior of Dorothy's apartment. Mm-hmm. So the back stairs up and down, and I was wearing the exterminator outfit, and I had the canister, and then I would change into the black suit, and then so we did all the exteriors. And we filmed them all Steadicam, long, hot day, crazy. That was back in the day when you had to show dailies. So we got the film back the next day, and the producer, who happened to be Dino De Laurentiis, watched the dailies. Now, he had told David, he said, "Don't make it too dark, not too dark." When he saw the dailies, they were so dark, you could barely make out my face in the whole thing. And he like exploded and said, "What on earth?" And David was like, Dino, don't worry. He said, "Don't worry. We had a problem with the camera. And the stop on the camera was off, so we're going to have to redo it again, but please don't worry." That was our first day of filming. We about gave Dino a heart attack.
Dress rehearsal.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But I got a good workout.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We
Glad
have
you're here.
a sad mere 5 minutes left, so we're going to have to speed
Go
round.
fast.
We want to know
Go
your
fast.
name, but hit with the question fast. People in the back of the line.
I'm Miha, and I'm a big Twin Peaks fan, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if you are aware of how mimetic that thing has been, and if you have been watching the memes on the internet, and if you,
Yeah.
what you think about what this has turned into versus what the thing might have intended to be.
Yeah, Twin Peaks was one of those phenomena that nobody expected. I think everyone who signed on to the original pilot, myself included, felt like this would probably end up being a 2-hour movie of the week, which is what they used to call them back then, that ABC would put on. And it was so cool because we all felt like we were anarchists working with David Lynch in television.
That it was on ABC is a trip unto
It's
itself.
so weird when you think about it
it's
now.
so amazing.
But it really set the tone for a lot of stuff after that. A lot of people came to me after seeing Blue Velvet or seeing Twin Peaks and said, "Oh wow, this is possible on television. I had no idea. So it sort of gave the medium a kind of a new angle, and particularly the fact that as a creative person like David Lynch, who's going to reinterpret everything, some of the filmmakers and some of the producers and directors came to television with a more respect, I guess, and said, this is actually something I can actually use this medium in a way that it hasn't really been done before. This is before streamers, before any of that stuff. So it opened the door for a lot of people, which is pretty special. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, we are producing several audio dramas for Audible, and we would love to tell more Twin Peaks stories. Would there be any interest
That's a good
joining
idea.
us? And would the audience like to hear more Twin Peaks stories on Audible?
We're going to have to get David involved.
Of course.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe. I'll talk to him. Maybe that's a way
Maybe
to.
Maybe have final cut.
Yeah, there you
For sure. No question about it.
Fair enough.
All right.
Let's see what he says. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Hi, Anne. Hi, Kyle. I'm Amanda.
Hi.
Amanda.
I have to say, your social media presence brings me such joy. And I'm wondering if your team has ever come to you and given you an idea, and as you're making it, you're like, oh, this feels silly, or what am I doing?
Yeah, have they?
And
Every single time, Amanda. But I just jump in. I just, like when we were doing the mustache stuff and the packing, and I just think, what would Pedro Pascal do? And I said, he would do this.
Just
he
also
would do
to add
this.
to that, do you remember the crazy one we did where he's literally laying in plastic and he made me? This was all his idea.
Oh yeah, so
I would like
they
to go on
said
record.
pre-pod,
That was his idea, and the aggressive snorting of the cocaine in slow motion, also his idea.
Yeah.
I just went with
We
it.
had to have a sneeze in that. I mean, it was essential. I
he's
ruined
an
the shirt,
artiste.
but it was worth it. Yeah,
Great question. Thank you.
I have a great time with it, and I'm always going. But I said, but look, the girls are how old are they? 20, 21. They're very
12.
young. Yeah, and I'm like, they must
22,
know what
24.
they're doing.
Oh, yes.
I put my trust in them. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay, we're going to be
Thanks,
so
Amanda.
close to wrapping it up. Like we could squeeze in probably 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question about your time as can you talk about your favorite memories as a young buck working on a picture of that scale down in Mexico in 1983? And then also, did you provide any mentorship to Tim Chalamet in his role as the Cuisance?
No, he doesn't need any mentorship.
Okay. Shoved in 2 questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's
I hear
fine.
you.
I love it. It was an amazing time. I was out of school, not even a year, but an acting training school. And, as an actor, you're sort of a gypsy. Honestly, you kind of go where the work is. So it made complete sense to me that I would move to Mexico City and get a house somewhere in Coyoacan, and I would start my work in this film. It was, I had nothing to compare it to, never been on a film set before. So it all made complete sense to me. And I got to meet some of my idols, one in particular, Jürgen Prochnow, who I had just seen not even a year earlier when I was in school at a movie theater in Seattle, and had been so taken by his performance, and I get to Mexico City, and he's playing my dad. It's just like, this is a strange world. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Kyle. I'm Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Love Blue Velvet.
Thank
love
you.
all your work.
Thank you.
Have you ever hidden in a closet like in Blue Velvet, or in any place to spy on anybody in like your real life ever?
Good question. No.
If he tells, it'll ruin all his secrets.
Okay. And is it
Sometimes I want to check on my son to make sure he's doing his homework, but that's another thing.
is it Harkonnen or Harkonnen?
Oh, good. We always said the Harkonnens, but I think Frank actually. Here's a crazy thing. Someone sent me a letter that a fan had received from Frank Herbert with all the pronunciations, or many of the pronunciations.
No way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we were wrong about half the time.
Thank
But
you.
Frank didn't seem to mind. Anyway.
Last question. No
Thank you.
pressure. The last question.
Hi, Kyle. My name is Dulcie. I'm with Clip Bike. We're based in Brooklyn, New York. We're huge fans of Portlandia. You played the mayor of Portlandia.
Yes.
How much do you bike?
How much do I bike? I bike in my gym.
Yeah. He
But
bikes and bikes and stays in the same place.
I do. I have a scooter in New York, like an old type scooter that that has the resilience because you're in New York and you're going over potholes and stuff. But I had too many close calls, so I put that in. But I love biking, and I do actually seriously in my gym. I have a bike and I ride the bike.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Kimberly,
you.
you have 30 seconds. This is my friend Kim.
I don't know what Twin Peaks is. Don't judge me. I'm here for the Sex and the City fans, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Where would Trey be today? Has he solved his ED issues? And how did you feel about taking on that stigma early days?
He'd be in
He's a
Canada.
journalist at heart.
He'd be in Toronto, probably. I don't know why I say Canada, but you said A, so I just thought she might be from Canada.
I'm from Austin now.
Okay, he's in Boston then.
You get asked about Trey a lot.
Yeah, I got a call from Michael Patrick King and Jenny Bix, writers on the show, showrunner on the show. And they said, we want to meet you for this role of Trey, married to Kristen Davis' character, Charlotte. He's Upper East Side surgeon, heart surgeon. Yeah, and he's pretty fit, And I was like, this is my chance to be like a regular guy. I can just play a normal person. He's a heart surgeon. He's sort of a heartthrob, I thought, I'd be able to do this. I went to the meeting. We sat down. We had a really nice conversation. And towards the end, they said, oh, by the way, he has mother issues and he's impotent. And I was like, damn it. So close.
Yep.
But then I was like, well, let's treat it with as much respect as you can on a show like Sex and the City and really make it part of the relationship, the reality of the relationship with Kristen Davis. And I think we told sort of a sweet story. I mean, there were some twists and turns in there that were very strange. I'll mention the Jugs magazine episode in particular. That's one of those where you get the script and you're like, you want me to do what? For those of you who haven't seen it, do not. Do not see
But
it.
that's the magic of Kyle MacLachlan. You take all these left of center characters and make them endearing and lovable no matter if
That's
they're
right.
Dougie or Trey or the mayor.
Yeah, and I have fun doing it.
There you go. We really appreciate you guys all coming out.
Thank
today.
you
We
so
really do.
much.
Everyone needs to listen to Varnamtown, get excited
Varnamtown.
for Fallout, buy the book to find out more about Varnamtown, and more to come, right?
What else do they have to do? Let's see, they got
That's
a lot of things you got to
Eat
do.
your carrots.
Thank you for being here, everyone. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, everyone.
I really appreciate it. Okay. Cheers.